All right, we are live for another episode of Real Estate Junkies podcast. Today I have Andy Griesinger from Charlotte, North Carolina. He is someone that I got connected with on our upline community fast forward movement, someone that I got to know over the last couple of days by researching about him. And he is doing amazing work on social media by telling his story. So I'm like, you know what? I gotta get this guy on my podcast and kind of share his story on how he got into real estate. It's been over a year that he's in EXP. He's a broker and realtor with EXP, and it seems like he has a passion for, connecting and helping the members of his community and helping the members of his team. And Andy, it's a pleasure having you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always nice to be able to see you.
Yes, for sure. So tell us a little bit about the background of, where were you before getting into real estate and what got you into real estate?
So I've been licensed for 9 years now.
Same
And
here.
when I first got licensed, I did that to sell commercial real estate. So I got into real estate to do commercial brokerage and only commercial brokerage. 9 years ago. I mean, I was in my early 20s and new to Charlotte, didn't know anyone, didn't know anything about commercial real estate, just knew that I wanted to do that.
So what
And
got you into
so,
commercial real estate in the first place? What were you doing before that?
I had graduated college and worked for my fraternity, actually driving around, traveling the country, visiting colleges as like the nationals guy, and did that for 2 years, and then moved to Charlotte and got licensed. So I didn't really have much of a professional work history or background with any of that kind of stuff. I just decided I wanted to be in Charlotte and I wanted to do real estate. And as a finance major in college at Virginia Tech, I figured I might as well get into commercial because it's more finance based and it's bigger paychecks, and it's just, I figured
So money was a motivator, kind of?
it was, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so how was that journey like getting into commercial? How long were you doing commercial for?
So I was in commercial for the commercial brokerage I was in for about 8 or 9 months, and that was it. I ran out of money. It was a 100% commission job, and I had about that much money saved up, and I was literally doing everything I could to try and pinch every penny and keep the lights on as long as possible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was eating bologna sandwiches every day, not going out to lunch unless someone else was paying, like wasn't going to lots of dinners with friends or anything like that. If I went out to the bars with my friends, like I would literally bring my own flask and just get one drink and then pour bourbon in from a flask. Like it was whatever it took.
So what was your expectation getting into commercial, like getting into real estate, going into the commercial space? Like what did you know that it's gonna be like commercial commission based and the challenges related? Like were you aware of all of that?
Yeah, and that was why I was doing all of those things, preparing myself to try and just last as long as possible before a commission came in. And so I knew it was feast or famine, and I knew that it was 100% commission, and that that I was going to have to do whatever it took to make things work and to make ends meet until I got my first sale.
So how long did it take?
I never got one. So
no, how long were you there?
Like 8 or 9 months.
Wow. And yeah, commercial real estate, for those of you who don't know, the lifespan of a commercial deal is much longer than residential. It's not like emotion based. It's numbers game, and people are making decisions. Even if you got a good buyer and good investor who's looking to buy something, they're always looking at numbers, and it's all like logic based. And if the numbers don't make sense, they don't go through with it. And 2014 is when you got in, right? About 2014. So it wasn't like commercial real estate wasn't doing so great back then, right? It probably worse than residential back then. So what did you do after that?
So after that, I actually went and worked for a commercial real estate financing company and learned a lot around the financing piece of it, learned a lot about CMBS debt. And we worked with owners who own large commercial real estate portfolios and properties with exiting the property, whether it's or exiting their loan, essentially, whether it was through refinance or sale. And so I did that for about 2.5 years. I was sitting at a desk every single day from 9 to 6 if we didn't have to if we didn't have to stay late. And I didn't enjoy it at all, and knew that I needed to be back out and about, talking to people, working with people, and feeling like I'm actually helping people with whatever they may need.
Yeah.
And in commercial, you get kind of bred to look down on residential agents. You get bred to kind of look down on the realtor community, because a lot of the TV shows and stuff that you're seeing, and I mean, a lot of real estate agents, the average one is they're
just opening doors back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, even now, it's like I'll tell people in Charlotte that I'm a real estate agent. You can see the look on their face, like, oh, you're just a real estate agent. It's like
salesperson.
So,
sleazy salesperson.
So I met a couple of realtors back then and this is in 2016, who really treated it like a business and weren't just selling a couple houses a year because they felt like it and going to boozy lunches every day. They were treating it like a business. They were working day in, day out. They had teams set up. They had administrative staff. They had operational support, like everything.
Business.
Yeah. And so once I met a couple people who were doing that, I was like, oh, this is like, could be really legit. And like, these people have a real business set up, and that's intriguing. And so that was what kind of got me excited to look into the residential space.
And you already had your license, so there was nothing stopping you getting into it. So it was what, 2016 you got into residential then?
It was right at the beginning of 2017 that I got into residential.
Perfect timing. The market was up, and so what was that experience like in residential? Like, well, how long did it take you kind of get a groove, get yourself into the groove?
It was tough. You're going a couple months at a time with no closings, or you could go weeks and
feast or famine model, what like most
Yep. It's like, and I knew I was getting right back into it. I knew that joining KW, like, I was going to be 100% commission, having splits, having a team split. I didn't want to join a team that was just going to hand me leads. Like, I wanted to join a team that was going to teach me how to build a business and teach me how to grow. And so that was super important for me, because I've always wanted to have a relationship-based business, and I made sure that I joined a team that was going to teach me how to do that.
Yeah.
But getting started it's tough. It's a lot tougher than people think. It's a lot tougher than TV shows make it look. It's a lot tougher than people even make it seem on Instagram and Facebook and everything. A lot of people are pounding their chest when in reality they're strapped.
Yeah. And it's the reality of the industry is that fake it till you make it, right? Like a lot of people, some of these real estate agents, especially those who got in like 2018, 19, I think they're in a better position than the ones that got in 2020, 2021, 2022. They actually seen results way faster than they got experience, right? Or knowledge or training or anything, right? Like, these markets that we have just passed, it's much easier. Like, you just like run into, like, you wake up in the morning and you just fall into a transaction, like, damn, we're pending, right? Yeah. So it wasn't like that when you started. So you actually had, even though it was tough, it was actually better for you, right? You actually got to learn the business. You actually got to learn to go prospect and look for opportunities. You actually got to, get a buyer that doesn't want to make an offer, right? That wants to see 5 houses, right? So it is, in my perspective, and I say this to any agents that get into the business now, is that it's actually better you got in now than you got in 2020. Right? Because it's a tough market, and you would actually learn the business the hard way, and you would actually get more experience.
I would agree with that completely. Yeah.
So how long did you stick with the team?
2 years. So I was on the team for 2 years, and then went on my own in 2019 at the very beginning of the year.
Wow. So what was the deciding factor of going on your own? Like, was it the confidence level? Was it that, okay, I was getting my deals on my own? What was it?
Actually, it was a little bit of both of those. It was confidence. I didn't want to. I've never been someone who jumps real fast into things like that. Those are big decisions that have major impacts, and
Mhm.
so I've never been someone who just jumps right into that kind of decision. A lot of realtors are guilty of having a mild amount of success early on with something, and then just building out a massive team, or leaving the team they're on, or changing brokerages, or starting their own firm, or anything like that, because they
Yeah.
have a little bit of success, but they don't actually know if it's sustainable or not yet. And so
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure that I was in a place where I felt like it was sustainable. Um, and so when I looked back at my sales from the year before and looked at what I thought was coming down the pipeline, it just felt like the right time to do something like that, because
Mhm.
I'm a big believer in having the biggest foundation possible and
Mhm.
growing. Almost, it goes against the grain a little bit because of what a lot of people coach on, but I almost feel like I prefer to grow because I need to,
Yeah.
and not just because
Just keep pushing
I
and scaling regardless. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I like making sure that I have the biggest foundation possible, and then growing because I'm forced to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. So what were the activities that you were doing to build your business when you were in the team? Like initially, what were the things that you were doing that were giving you success?
A lot of open houses and cold calling, and the
Okay, so the
open houses,
traditional.
yep, and networking. And so I was hosting, on average, I'd say like probably four or five open houses a month, but I was making flyers for them, dropping them on doors for all the neighbors, and
Doing
whether
the
I was
right
not,
way, not just doing the
yeah,
open house. Yeah, marketing it. Yeah.
and whether I was door knocking or not, I made sure that everyone knew about the open house in the neighborhood, and I was putting signs out at 5 o'clock in the morning before the open house, because if you put it out on a Friday night, people are going to steal the signs, and if you put it out an hour before the open house, no one's going to see it. So I figure if I put them out in the morning before the sun comes up, before everyone starts walking their dog or walking around with their cup of coffee, they were still going to see it, and it wouldn't be too far in advance before the open house that people would take them down.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you put like time of the open house on your signs?
Honestly, I can't even remember. I don't think we did. We do now.
Yeah.
But I don't think we might have. I honestly can't remember.
Okay, but at least you were doing it the right way, and obviously that's the reason why you've seen success with it. So when you went on your own, were you still within the brokerage and you went on your own?
Yeah. So I stayed with Keller Williams, which was where I was.
Yeah.
I stayed with them when I went solo, and I stayed with them for three more 3 more years. Yeah, 3 more years
And
as
and
I built out.
how was that experience going on your own? Like, okay, now you don't have the safety net, right? Of like having the support from the team, right? Yes, you're within the same brokerage. What was that experience like for you?
It's scary. It's scary because you have a little bit of a safety net when you're on a team,
Yeah.
and that's gone as soon as you go solo. As soon as you leave the team, that is gone, and that's where then the safety net becomes your networking and relationships with other realtors. And a lot
Yeah.
of agents take that for granted and don't network within our community of real estate agents.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge missed opportunity if you're not networking within the realtor community.
Yeah, it's they look at it as competition. Like, why would I go connect with my competition, right?
Right.
And that's what especially coming into EXP, I see it more than ever. It's like you got to go connect with other realtor agents that will what they're doing, contribute to within the community and within their environment. But as far as networking, was there anything specific you were doing? Where were you connecting with most of your people at the time?
I mean, I would go to any event I could. I went to every event that I got invited to. My goal was to not have dinner at home ever.
Mm,
So,
okay.
lunches, dinners, coffee meetings, drinks meetings, events, every single one that I could go to, I would go. And if I had a dinner where I was going to be eating at home, I would text someone just to go to dinner with them. Even it didn't have to be someone that I thought was going to be buying or selling in the next couple months. It didn't matter. It
Yeah.
was just networking with people in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And like during this journey, what was your family status and how, like, were you married? Like, I don't know that about you. Like, do you
So I was single. I was single. I was in my late 20s at that point, living by myself. And so I was like, look, this is my opportunity to do this. And I understand that it's easier said than done for a lot of people. If they're married with kids and have pets and all in the works, it's like, it's tough to do that. You can't go out to dinner every single night and then go to a drinks meeting after, or go to an event and then go to dinner after the event with people. Like, you
Yeah.
can't do that. And
Yeah.
so that's the kind of thing that I took full advantage of and knew that I could take advantage of at the time. And I basically, I mean, it was raw networking, like true networking every day, not necessarily with any agenda, but just to become a name that people associated with real estate.
It's like the network until the end of the world, right? Until the world ends and the
Yeah.
beat drops and nobody's there anymore. But look, I have been training and coaching agents for past 3 years, and I have found pros and cons to being a single and being in business, and having a family and being in business. So pros of being a single and being in business is you could do that, right? You could do whatever you want to do, right? You have that flexible, and that's pretty much the con of having a family and being in business is you can't do whatever you want. You have a structure that you got to follow, and you're limited by certain factors. But then again, cons of being a single and being a business is you don't really have a big why, right? And that becomes the limiting factor where not every day you wake up with the fire that, hey, I gotta go make something happen, right? But that's also the pro of having a family. And because I got into business when I was single, and then I got married in the midway, so I have experienced it myself, where when you have a family and you are in business, and especially business like us, where there is no safety net, there is no guarantee on income, when you have that why you're doing it, right, you have to make the ends meet for you, not only yourself, but now for people that are going to rely on your income. It's a big factor that comes into play. What about you now? Do you have family? You're still single?
Well, I was going to chime in on a couple things that you were saying in there.
Yeah, sure.
One of the other cons to doing that while you're single is it's very lonely. You're
Mm,
going to you're going to these events, you're going on showings, you're going to dinners, you're going to drinks, all that kind of stuff, and then you come home to an empty house and it's lonely.
yeah.
And that is difficult, but I leaned in on working out,
Yeah.
being with friends, all those kinds of things that I felt like were good for me mentally and physically. And that
Mhm.
helped get me through all that. And the other piece that I was going to say is it's not that you don't have a big why when you're single building this. It's just that it's a different one. And
Yeah.
so it's not one that's like built in. And so
Yes.
for me,
It's not like comes automatically. Now you gotta go
right,
actually create one, right?
you have to figure out what it is. And that's hard for a lot of people. For me, it wasn't hard because I had already I had tried commercial real estate sales and I didn't sell anything in it. So, and I went completely broke. And so for me, my big why was instead of like a big why, it was more of what am I going to wake up and run from every day? And
Mm-hmm.
that was it, being completely broke. Like
Yeah.
literally had $1,000 left to my name before I got a job that I didn't like. And so that that was my thing was okay,
Yeah.
well, I don't necessarily like sure it's my big why, but like instead the way I thought about it was like what am I running from? I never want to go back to that. I never want to even get freaking close to going back to that. So
The
that's
thought
my
of
motivation.
it scares you.
Yeah, it
It's
was the
the
fear.
greatest motivating factor of human beings is either desire or pain, right? When desire doesn't work, you don't have a high desire, you're kind of like at the board level, right? Then you got to run from the pain to motivate yourself, and which is what worked for you, I feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a different kind of motivation, but at the same time, like I genuinely love helping people. And then you
Mm.
start getting addicted to the feeling when you're repping buyers, and I was very, very, very buyer heavy to begin.
Yeah.
When you're representing buyers and you're winning multiple offers, there's nothing better than
Yeah.
going up against 8, 9, 10, 15, or even 2 or 3 offers for a buyer that's their perfect house, and then being able to call them and tell them that they won that house. There's no better feeling in this industry than that.
Yep, yep. And closing and so watching that family having that experience with first time home ownership and everything that comes with it. I'll be honest with you, it was very hard for me to kind of detach myself. I haven't been in active production since the end of 2020. And it was very hard for me to kind of walk away with that factor because I love so much negotiating deals. I love so much like working closely with clients, and I decided to start my team, and it was like that factor right there was very hard for me to. So even till today, to create a balance for myself, every agent that I have in my team, I let them know ahead of time, like the negotiating factor, right? If you have any, like, I don't want to step on your toes, but if you have any hesitancy, right, with any listing agents, and you're like, you know what, this is a hard listing agent, is I'm not able to connect with them, get me in the door, and I got you on this, right? And I still like do this, and even consultation with buyers, like, hey, if there is an appointment that you set, you feel like you're not, connecting with them, put that on my calendar. I will join in, and I will, I would love to like consult that buyer and find out what their needs are. And that's the factor I love about this, is that you get to learn about people's problems and you get to craft a solution, right, and guide them through that. And once you actually solve that problem, and they like thank you and they're so appreciative of you, right, it goes beyond how much money you made on the deal. And yes, it's rewarding, and we all get like that, I don't know, goosebumps over like, oh, $9,000 check, right, or $15,000 check. But it's the rewarding factor is definitely there. So up until 2022, you were with KW, like all the way up until you
Yes.
came to. Oh wow! So you just started with one brokerage and one brokerage guy, right?
I'm a loyal guy, and I don't like
Wow.
bouncing around.
So what made you flip? What were the deciding factor coming to EXP for you then?
I mean, one of the biggest things was at KW in my office that I was in. I became the top solo agent there, and I was
Wow.
outselling some of the teams every month. And
Wow.
I, it's great. It's great having your ego stroked every single month, being at the top of the leaderboard in the office of 400 people. But you start to realize, like, how am I going to grow from there? How am I going to learn from there? Because
Yeah.
if I'm selling more than everyone else in this office, sure, there's lots that you can learn from every single person at any level. So that's not what I'm saying, but it was, if I want to really grow and learn from the best of the best, like, where do I go?
Yeah.
And that was what kind of led me to, I like the structure of how the cap system works and the splits and whatnot at KW, and EXP is the same, just slightly
Yeah.
different. And so that's where, for me, I wasn't going to go to a firm that didn't have a cap. If there was not a cap on the fees and on your commissions, out of the question for me. Conversation's over.
Yeah.
So it really narrowed things down
Yeah.
to a couple different firms. And then it became, okay, well, where are all the major players? Where are the people that are producing at a high level that I can learn from? And I do a lot with social media. So where are those guys? Like, where are the people that are crushing it with social and online, not in Charlotte, but online around the country, that I can go learn from and have access to? And that was what kind of led me down the path to EXP and to the Fast Forward movement. And that was kind of why. I mean, I didn't care about revenue share. I didn't care about the stocks and all that kind of stuff. I did not care about any of that stuff. All I cared about was building out my production business for myself and making sure it was a good place for my team. Because I had a small team at the time. I had an agent and a couple ops staff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure it made sense for them and that I was taking care of them and not making a move selfishly just for me.
Okay.
And so I wanted to make sure I was taking care of them, and I wanted to make sure it was something that could help all of us grow. um, and that was what led me there.
It is amazing. So many similarities between you and me. I got licensed in 2014, but really didn't start selling real estate until 2016. And and I the 2016 when I started I did bounce around a little bit. I'm a guy that kind of like I get into something, even though I'm fully satisfied with it, I'm like, okay, what's next here? Right? Like, what's the next level here? Like, I always kind of like try to draw up like next levels, kind of like try to see that ahead of time so I know, set that strategy to keep climbing that level. But I was also at a brokerage. I was there for 3 years. Within 6 months, I was a top player. 3 years in, the last year I was there, I had already started a team. Within 1 year, we sold over 120 units, and I'm like, and it's like when you are the top player there, not only yes, you can still learn from people that are there, with whatever you have already learned, you can kind of tweak your stuff better, but the next level, access to the next level above you is not there, right? So that's how I felt. And I'm like, okay, so I have to go outside of the brokerage and network. And I was always big into networking and connecting with people, learning what they're doing. I wasn't really into like I never cold called in my 9 years. I did open houses only because the seller asked to. We actually don't even do open houses on our listings. But I always learned these like social media strategies from agents that are not in my environment. I'm like, why am I working so hard? Why don't I just put myself in an environment where there are people like me, and actually not just like me, people who are above me, people who are doing fast forward movement, people are in there. Like I hear their numbers, I'm like, are those even real numbers? Like, is that even possible? Like, how are you guys doing this stuff? Show me. Right? So that was pretty much the reason why I joined the XP too. But now, when did you start with like social media marketing? Because I looked into your YouTube channel and stuff you're doing on Instagram, and the way you're shared, like there's a lot of best practices there. How'd you get into that space, and how'd you learn, and how'd you tweak, and how'd you get here with social media?
It all started in 2018. That was when I decided to really go deep on social media, and it's something I've been working on every day since then. And so it's not something where you just post one video or post a picture or two or
And you
post a
go viral.
it's not going to happen. And because your audience is not trained to expect that yet.
Yeah.
And so I went really deep on Instagram in 2018. I was featured as a rising star in Charlotte Real Producer magazine. And it was as simple as that. I got the notification I was going to be featured. I set up an interview, set up a photo shoot, never done any of that kind of stuff before. And literally was like, I need to build out my Instagram because I want the most amount of people in Charlotte to see this when I post this.
Yeah.
Because I know it's coming. They don't know it's coming.
Yeah.
But if more people are watching what I'm doing and able to see this, it's more people that I might be able to get as a client. Because I'm showing that I'm credible. I'm showing that I'm a trusted resource because I'm actually out here selling.
Yeah.
And this magazine seems to agree. So that was the like initial piece, was getting featured in the magazine and then wanting to have a big Instagram for the post when I was featured in the magazine.
Yeah. So obviously when we start doing this stuff, right, like start posting video and start making some of the social media, a lot of people just give up too fast, right? Like give up too soon. Like they post like 3 of them and may or may not even follow the best practices of making the posts, right? And then they're like, nobody called me to buy or sell a house, right, from that one post I made. But maybe it's not for me, right? But obviously you had done it consistent enough for a magazine to be like, you know what, this guy is a rising star, right? So I'm sure by getting that acknowledgement, you're like, you know what, I'm all in now, right? Was that something that and when did you start on YouTube?
YouTube was actually at the beginning of 2020. So with COVID and everyone going home, no one working from the office anymore, people were on their phones a lot more. People were on their computers a lot more. People couldn't travel to see a new city that they were moving to, which we're a very big city for relocating jobs. And so I also had known that my biggest like lead generation expense up to then was meals and going out to dinners, drinks, coffee meetings, lunches, all that kind of stuff. And couldn't do that because of COVID. So it was like, well,
Now what am I
what
gonna
do
do
I
with this
do?
money?
How am I gonna yeah, like I'm still selling houses. So how do I spend some money? I need to spend money so I don't pay it in taxes.
Mhm.
And I was on a mastermind with Ryan Serhant and his community in the Sell Like Serhant community,
Yeah.
and asked that question. I was like, I'm before I go out and buy a 6,000 pound car to just fully depreciate it, like it's not going to do anything for me other than be a tax write off.
Yeah.
What could I do? And he was like, video. Go all in on video. It's a full write off, and it will help your business. And it has.
Wow. So when did you get into Ryan Sargent's mastermind?
In like 2019
Wow.
when
So
it
of
started. Yeah.
course he's like the brand building guy, right? And he's not in your market. He's in New
Right.
York, right? So it had to be. I already know the answer, but I'm asking because of my audience, right? Putting yourself in environments where people are doing stuff that you're completely unaware of. How you looked at social media. You started in 2018 building your Instagram, right? After
Hmm.
getting into the mastermind, how is that experience difference?
It just gave me a clear picture on what I needed to do. And I was already the difference for me was I was already doing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
It was now I just need to tweak and add and do a
Yeah.
couple little things here and there versus starting something. Starting video was something that was
Yeah.
brand new and it's intimidating, and doing that for my first videos were not good, but I did it and I learned from it and I grew from it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what this whole experience in any business or anything, right? In life, right? It's just that if you have convinced yourself to do what you did with the Instagram thing, right? But then you surrounded yourself with people who are doing at a higher level than you are, you're like, oh wow, these people are really into this, right? Meaning like your increases your confidence, you get more
Mhm.
clarity on how you need to do it. And that's one of the biggest so recruiting and training agents and coaching, I got into that space before coming to EXP, 2 years before coming to EXP. When I got into it, I got more clarity on, okay, the reason why I need to do it, right? For me, it was, and I'm going to ask you this question, but for me at least, it was coming to EXP. When I first started the team, the sole motivation behind starting the team for me was I worked in 2020, COVID year. Most of the time I'm at home, but I'm still working 20 hours a day, right? 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that was my best year out of my 9 years. But I'm like, if I live like this my life, I'm gonna lose my wife. I'm not gonna have a son that I have connection with, right? I need to do something where I get some of my time back. So I hired a coach. Like at that point in my business, I'm like, I'm not doing anything but without a coach, right? So even now, everything I do have to do new. Like if it's video coach. Like Karen Carr is, who I'm in her mastermind. She's a big YouTube coach. But anyway, so like when I got my coaches, I initially did it because I wanted time back and I wanted to leverage other people's time to make the money that I was going to make with my time, right? That was my initial reason. But now coming into EXP, getting around people that are doing it at a much higher level, my sponsor has 4,000 agents in his downline, looking at, Chuck Fazio is in our upline, 8,000 people in their upline, in their downline, right? And the reason why they do it is not just the revenue share, right? Most people think like, oh, you are just about recruiting. When actually, before I came to EXP, I interviewed 8 sponsors and all big names you can think of within the EXP organizations. And I flew to Phoenix to meet Chuck Fazio in his house. And when I sat with him, it's like complete different thinking and complete different. Like he already has his business vision in mind, like what he would do his for himself to make his money, right? And this helping agents was this passion of his, right?
Mhm.
So it just gave me a new perspective, new passion, more clarity on why I should do it rather than just the money factor and just get the freedom for myself, right? So since of course you came because you wanted to surround yourself with people that are doing whatever you want to do at a higher level. You were not sold into the whole revenue share and the stock thing. How has that experience been? Like, what have you? Did you find people doing it at the high level, or what was that? What is this experience like so far coming into EXP?
It's been great. I was almost skeptical about it when I joined, and it was something that like it wasn't on my radar. I genuinely didn't really care about it. And then I had a friend come over with a very small team that he started growing his team, and I started seeing some revenue share from that, and it was very exciting because you're like, oh, this is real. Like this is very real.
Oh, like, the money does come into my account every month.
Yeah. And it's like when you're seeing a few $1,000s a month come in, you're like, oh, this doesn't suck. And so it's been eye-opening. And then every once in a while, I'll check my E-Trade account and look at my portfolio with my EXP stock. And, I call that jacket pocket money. It's like you take out your jacket for the first time in the fall.
Oh, I got this
money. You got $20 in there or $100 or something like that.
Yeah.
It feels good. And that's how I feel when I open my E-Trade portfolio now to look at the stocks. And I genuinely mean that because it's taken out already with the agent equity program. And some of it is gifted to us as well for just selling houses. And so it's great. I absolutely love it.
Especially the months when the stock is going good, right? Like you're like, what's mine's doing? I do that sometimes, but honestly, like I don't even keep track of my stock money. Last time I checked, it was like over 10 grand. I'm like, what? In 1 year, I had more money than I had paid out to my brokerages. Like, and it's like the icon status is like when I knew about it, and that's one of the reasons I'm like, you know what, I want to align myself with this model because it's not only good for me, but good for all the agents under me. And I know this is the great value proposition where you get back the money that you give into the company, but you don't know until it hits, right? Once you get it back, you're like, so this brokerage literally worked for me to process the transaction for my team, and everything they have done was free. Like this is a no-brainer. Like there is no way. And now these days when I network a lot, like yesterday I was at a mastermind, and brokers out there, they know we are EXP, so they know we are about recruiting, so they don't shy away from just directly pitching, right? So they're like, oh yeah, you should come join us, right? I'm like, well, put your value proposition, and if it beats EXP, I'm in, right? Just let's go, like do it, and I know there is nothing out there. I have done my research. But anyway, it was a pleasure, man, connecting with you. I'd love to get more into like brand building with you. Maybe in the future we can connect together, collaborate together, create some content on that. But it's definitely been a pleasure having this conversation with you, and I'm excited to see what you do with this platform and everything that you're doing. I'm excited to watch you on your journey.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you having me on here. And yeah, it's going to be a very exciting year.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks.
All right.